No, at one time, if you look at an old map of Africa, I go by the old maps. I'm not going by any maps after 1950.
What happened in 1950?
They created the Middle East. There was no such thing as a Middle East. Where's the Middle West? Where's the Middle North? Why is there a Middle East? There was North, East, West, and South, y'all. Hold on, wait. I don't want to get in any trouble for this.
No, we are here for it. Please.
Which way does the Nile River flow?
South.
North.
North.
To Lake Victoria. So what happened?
Wait, Lake Victoria is south.
The Nile River flows north.
So north is south and south is north.
Okay, everybody look at the map right now. Go run to the books and get your map. Look where southern Egypt, look at the map of Egypt. Look where lower Egypt is and where northern Egypt is. In the old map, southern Egypt is in, northern Egypt is in the south, southern Egypt is in the north. They changed the maps. Don't get mad at me.
Why would they do that? No, I really want to know. I believe you. No, I totally believe you, but I'm just asking why.
It's a new world order.
So the Middle East was never really on the maps, or what you were
saying. There wasn't a Middle East until they created this thing called the Suez Canal. Now hold on. You see, the thing is, you're a traveled person, and I know you're a studied person. Certain things, certain little things, have been just edited or etched out or not mentioned.
Yeah.
There was never a Middle East until 1948, after the World War, and they made a sovereign thing like this is going to be this. No.
Truman changed the maps.
It wasn't Truman. It was everybody. I don't mention names in this, please. Mentioning names gets people in trouble. Yay. We don't do that.
Okay.
And you got to understand something. If you were a person who was a colonizer or a conquistador or whatever, right? You got to make things go your way for your mentality, for everybody else's knowledge. You got to keep people in a certain way. Like I said, we're still in a type of mental slavery. And when Africans come over here, they look at us like, why haven't you taken advantage of what you have? We get mad at them for what they get. I'm going to get. And as many people as I can help get, I'm going to help get. For the trade, they come over here and make their life better. Let's go over there and make ours. That's a fair trade to me.
Yeah.
My thing is this, y'all got to understand something. Y'all forgot you had Africa here, you have America here, and at one point in time, they were together. I don't know who split them apart. We were together. If you take a picture of the map, cut them both out and put them together, y'all pieces fit.
Yeah, Pangea, I think it's called.
Oh, wow. I give you props for even knowing that. When I said it when I went to school, I got a beating.
Really?
Yes, I went to Catholic school. I said, hey, they were together. They told me that I was lying and told me to put my hands out and slap my hand. I mean, so I went home, I took the map, cut it out, and put them together, brought it back to school and said, what do you think?
Yeah.
They said, put your hands out.
No, I totally believe in Pangea because, even when I was in Jamaica, I was like, this looks just like Ghana.
But hold on.
It looks like it literally could have fell off of Ghana.
Oh, it did.
No, it did.
No.
Yeah.
The thing is, we are all related. We forgot about it. I took this test called...
Black men suffer from low self-esteem as the root of a lot of the issues, wanting to prove you're the toughest, like prove you're the... Even when you are a successful Black man, like my dad always talks about feeling insecure in the workplace and having to fight through that, or always, like you said, having to be better, do better just to be equal. I think that's all of these things, like wanting to wear Jordans, the labels, Black culture, I think it's all rooted in low self-esteem.
I didn't hear you. You know why? That word you just said. Say it again.
Low self-esteem.
I don't understand that language.
But do you not see that in others? Maybe you have high self-esteem, but do you not see that as a trend?
No. What it is this. I don't have a high self-esteem. my name is Wendell. I know who I am. And we've got to know who we are. We've got to feel something about ourselves. I should have low self esteem. I'm short. I'm black. I'm from a poor family. Um, I don't have a college degree. Yeah, but I get out there and I make things happen and I do things and I grow and I go and I learn.
Do you think that there's a lot of men out there like you?
I hope there is. Yes, I feel there is because you know what? A lot of guys that I do business with, that I'm around mostly, um, I see them come here with nothing and now they have a lot.
Yeah.
But you know what? Unfortunately, as we're talking about this, as we started, they're all African. Hold on. Hold on.
Do you think there's a lot of African American men like you?
Not a lot. Not a lot. What did it? What did it?
They're out there, but there's not a lot.
You've taken enough time in doing what you do and have told yourself, I want to be a professional with this. You're already a professional. Okay?
Really sweet.
Stop trying to be. Stop trying to be what you are. You're already there.
Thank you.
You cool?
I appreciate that.
Let's do this.
I love the uplifting Black king.
Remember, I'm old. Name again.
Brittany.
Brittany. Okay.
So y'all, I have brought a dime to you today. Someone that we're gonna have a really interesting conversation with. Let's just start off because what attracted me to you and your thoughts before we even got into this conversation was the fact that you had visited Nairobi specifically.
Loved it.
So what took you to Nairobi?
Well, I was in a wedding in Nairobi. My friend got married. We had the African wedding here in the United States, and we had the American wedding in Kenya. And it was wonderful. I was his best man.
That's really interesting. So they had an African wedding here.
Yes.
What did that look like?
It was educational.
Well, let's say Kenyan wedding.
Yes, it was a Kenyan wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fun. It was educational. And I took a lot from it because I found out the reason or what the best man is. We hear the term the best man, and the best man is the protector of the bride. And I was like, wow, this is great. And I couldn't wait to get over there to meet everybody.
Wow. Did you try like the food and stuff like at the wedding here?
Yes.
You know,
it was delicious. It was absolutely delicious.
It's interesting to me that they chose to have an American wedding in Kenya and a Kenyan wedding in America. Why? What was the reasoning behind that, do you think?
I guess it was to bring the Kenyan experience here to all the people who's here, because his wife is American, and they brought that experience here, and then we all went over to Kenya and had the American wedding, you know, and it was a great thing. I loved it.
He must really, really love you for him to make you his best man.
I don't love him. No, but we met and we started doing business together, and we formed a relationship like that, and we're really close. And he's my best friend.
Wow, that's beautiful. What do you have a lot of like Africans that you've interacted with before him?
Yes, many. I'm originally from New York, and there's a large African community there. When I went out to California, there's a large African community out there, and it just seems to be like I'm just in that realm.
So you kind of tell me about, because for my granddaddy, I could say growing up in the South, he does not really know a lot about Africa. And like when I talk to him, a lot of the time he tries to like treat me kind of like I'm silly. Like, do you feel like most do you feel like most Black Americans here really have a grasp of Africanism, Africans, Like, do you feel like there's a gap?
There's a big gap. And what happened is during the years, we've been taught to disassociate each other from each other. We don't know you could be standing right next to your cousin and you don't know it. You can be with a family member and you don't know it because we've been separated. And when I went to Kenya, this is an experience that I had, which makes me want to go back because I have to go back. I got off the plane in Kenya, in Nairobi, and none of the wedding party was around. I didn't know where anyone was, and I was in Nairobi, Kenya, by myself. And
Mm.
I just told the taxi cab, just take me into Nairobi, and he dropped me off in the Westlands. I found a hotel, put my stuff up, and just put my backpack on and just walked around for myself. I was there for 2 days by myself. Before anybody found me, I found the wedding party.
Wow.
So I just wanted to experience what was going on. And in the morning while I was walking around, I think I asked somebody for a direction to somewhere. And the person stopped me and went and got an old man. And an old man came over to me. And I guess he was some type of chief or something. And he just grabbed me. And this old cat was strong. And he grabbed me and he said, "Son, where are you from?" And I said, I'm from America, from New York. He said, "Listen, you belong to us and you come back to us." And when he said that, I felt something come through me that he was telling the truth, that I needed to come back. Because we don't realize that we're family. And we've been separated for hundreds of years for whatever reasons we were separated. And we need to come back home.
Wow. You know what tribe he was from?
I think he was Kikuyu.
Okay. You kind of give Kikuyu in the face a little.
I've been told that. When I told them my name was Wendell, they took it as window, and everybody would look at me, and I found out that window means love, so I'm gonna change my name.
In Swahili, really?
Yes,
I love that. Would you have gone to Africa if it was not for this wedding? Like, would you have planned to kind of go to the continent?
I would have wanted to go. I would have wanted. I don't know. This took me there. I'll say that this took me there, even though it's something I've always wanted to do.
Why do you think that you had not kind of acted upon going there? What has like kept you from visiting before the wedding though? Like I'm a big advocate for like Black to Africa, Black Americans visiting the continent. Like what do you think in your life has kind of
The truth is, I would have had to go because my daughter would have made me go.
mm,
Okay, my daughter, my son, my ex-wife, they've been to Africa, and I hadn't gone. And they like, you got to go. And my daughter, she travels, and she would have made me go. So I would have gone there eventually.
what were some things that you kind of picked up on as far as like your spirit and just like the vibe when you were in Kenya that are different from like Atlanta?
Okay, I live in the West End of Atlanta, which is predominantly black, and Nairobi is most definitely predominantly black. And there was a difference. Walking around, I felt a type of welcome that you don't feel here in the United States. And anytime I opened my mouth and someone realized that I wasn't from there, it was always a thing where they was interested in me and wanted to talk. And people were, it's like a warm acceptance of being over there. And it felt different. It felt really good. And I'm most definitely going back.
Why do you think that that difference is there? Why do you think that in two cities with the same type of people, what do you think has gotten it to like what do you think the history is behind that? Like why? Do you think we'll ever get that feeling walking around Atlanta?
It's going to take some time. But over there, you've got to understand something. When they had the big move to Africa, a lot of people were taken away from them. And when an American shows up, I guess they kind of feel like, is that my cousin? We don't feel like that because of the way we're living and what's going on in our lives. And nobody's ever thinking about anything else. We're moving so fast. And I guess when you go over there, they look at you and they wonder, are you somebody missing from my family?
Mm. Do you feel, because most of the slaves came from the West Coast?
Right.
So do you feel that connection with East Africans? Because if we look at like the actual history, and I'm actually working on finding out more about the East African slave trade, but technically most African Americans are linked to the western part of
That's
Africa.
true. I'll tell you something. A lot of my friends, I've got friends from both Kenya and Togo and Nigeria, and I don't feel uncomfortable in either situation. I don't feel any kind of real separation. I just feel normal. And a lot of us here, we don't vibe. If you hear a different accent, you say, I can't understand them. But all you have to do is listen, and we're not used to listening. And when you say, is there, what's the vibe being in East Africa, vice West Africa? What I think is a lot of things that we've been told aren't really true. And we find that out daily.
Yeah. What was it like? Because I feel like a lot of the gap also like between Africans and African Americans is they don't really have that slavery chain on their back, that like Jim Crow type vibe. When they come over here, a lot of them are coming as like immigrants thirsty for this. But it's like psychologically, African Americans have a lot of trauma that has affected us economically, socially, and politically, that they don't come over with that type of trauma and baggage all the
Right.
time. Do you get what I'm saying? So I think
Yes.
that also is a big part of the gap.
Yes.
Like, how can you break it down? Like, so if you had to explain to like a Kenyan who has never been in America before, like, how could you break down the effects of enslavement and Jim Crow on like your life? Like, give us a little context on your life just growing up as a black man in America.
Well, being from Harlem, a lot of people feel like they feel that there's that glass ceiling. And when they look outside of it, it's like we talk about, when I was coming up, I'm an old person, they would talk about the man. And then they would get mad at me. I'm like, why are you talking about me? Like, what you talking about? I said, you talking about the man, that means you don't feel yourself a man. And we have to get out of that mentality that we're always held down. We are still in slavery. We're mentally enslaved right now. When an African comes over here, they don't feel that, so they look funny upon us. If you think about what's going on with the whole thing since the '60s, all the African people that I've met come over, they seek education, they seek to open their own businesses, and that's what's happening. And then you find a divide with the black people in the neighborhood when you see the African guy with the store or the gas station. You're like, how did they get it? The government must have gave it to them. There's something wrong. We don't have that thirst anymore because we've been giving our lives away. We've accepted certain things that makes us not want for more. When an African person comes from any of the countries over there and they're impoverished,
We can really say all immigrants.
yes, all immigrants actually, I know
Yeah.
quite a few. When they come from a place that's impoverished, they come here to this land saying, "Oh man, now I can grow. I don't have this government, whatever type of government, to stop me." And they come over here with that thirst and they make it happen. And then they look at African Americans, and they kind of look down on us. Really, honestly, that's been a problem, you know, because we like who they think they are. Because they're here and they're like, why do I? They're looking at you saying, why am I the only one here with a degree? Why am I the only one here open? This store was broken down and burnt out. I came and opened it. Why didn't you? We got to ask ourselves questions. I'm like this. When somebody's mad or somebody's upset or have a difference with somebody, I first stop and think about their side as they're coming to me.
Mm.
Right? And we have to look inside ourselves and see ourselves before we start pointing fingers and looking at others. Because every time you point a finger, there is like there's three pointing back at me. So we got to look into ourselves first. And we have to open up because they say like this: if your hand is closed and you got a clenched fist, you can't put anything in it and you can't get a handshake.
Yeah. United States, really statistically, our men are in jail. Statistically, Black people do not have generational wealth, even though we're coming out of this. But when you compare like white people, Black people, Spanish people, Asian people, so even Asian immigrants who come, their household wealth net worth is more. So I feel like we've had policies that have changed throughout time. I know my granddaddy talked about the GI Bill and the lack of the GI Bill being one of these things.
Okay, let me give you something. Education for my daughter. When the GI Bill started, it wasn't for black people. All the black servicemen, when the GI Bill started, they didn't get it. They didn't get it from World War One on up. Only white men, and then Jewish men, and then Hispanic men got it. Black men didn't get the GI Bill, and none of that's been told. And when they started getting it, it was like, all right, you got to think after the war, when guys came back from the war, the white servicemen got GI loans where black servicemen couldn't. They got a separation pay that black men didn't get. So that started a big gap, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had the shows Father Knows Best and my Three Sons and all this stuff showing this great white American wealth, this growth, this family, right? We didn't have that. We didn't have the means to make that happen. And then, you know, like everybody talks about the welfare system, how it broke up the families, where, you know, if um, the family was receiving welfare, the dad couldn't be in the house. Well, that was
Is that true?
yes, that's actual.
Because I
Look,
feel
if
like
you look,
that's
if you
always been like a myth.
no, if you look at the movie Claudine, I was there at the filming.
Wow. I've never seen it, but I'll check it out.
No, no, I was there at the filming, and that's the way it was. The say when the lady from the welfare department knocked on the door so you can get your food stamps or your welfare check, Dad had to go out the window. That was not a myth. That was an
So what if
actual
the dad
fact.
was literally jobless?
He wasn't living in that house.
That's abusive.
No, it's not abusive. That's called the system. You know, in Chicago, they have the projects, right?
Mm-hmm.
In New York, they got the projects. Down here, they have the projects. It's not the projects. It was a project. It was a social project. It was a social construct to keep the families like it was. I mean, this goes way back into slave time when they broke up the families. There was a reason for that. You couldn't have people thinking about lineage and growth. You couldn't have them being on the farm because they're going to start thinking about something like somebody of some time going to say, Dad, what are we going to do? Are we going to take over? They had to do that. And I mean, understand the reality of it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say, I might have done it because
Why?
no, because you look at this. I've got this. I've got this great wealth, right? And I'm only one person on this farm, this great big farm, with my wife and my two daughters and my son. And I've got 50 people here that's working. And they might get it that they don't want to be in the position that they're in anymore. So let me get this man and send him upstate or out of the state. Let me get this woman, send her there. Let me get that son and send him here. Let me get these daughters married off. You got to understand something. People don't have anything to hold on. People don't have any reason other than to do what you're told to do. That's what's happening. The black youth in America can't understand what I came up as a black youth in the 60s, right? The main thing that's important is go spend all your wealth on an iPhone. You work 2 months, you get enough money to buy some food,
Jordans.
and then you spend the rest of your wealth on an iPhone. And we don't have any kind of responsibility hasn't been shown to us or given to us. We're empty. And after you get the iPhone, that rush when you got your phone or you got your Jordans or you got that thing that everybody's gonna see, after you get that, You get a little, your endorphins go up, you get a little high about having that. And after you got it, then you realize that you have nothing. But it says that if people open up Deuteronomy in the Bible, it says you will sell yourself and be worth nothing.
Yeah.
It says that. We don't understand those parables. Those aren't parables. That's what's just happening right now.
Yeah.
We don't understand that. We don't understand that. We don't even have family. I ask 100 people, when was the last time that you've had a hug? Just a hug, some, some love like that. And they don't. When I see my friends from the military, we shake, we hug, we miss each other, we really feeling each other. When I go home, I've got sisters who are just loving. I've got my sons, my daughter, they're just loving because that's what we put out to each other.
Yeah.
We don't put out love to each other.
Mm.
We're separate. Everybody's cool. Everybody's, got that swagger. I
Yeah.
don't, but it's just a show. It's a facade. When I'm walking down the street, I see a young man get out of his car and pull his pants down, and then look in the glass to make sure that they're down enough so he can walk around with his ass out. Like, hold on, but hey, guess what? I went over to Kenya, and when I rode around with the motorcycle guys.
Boda.
That what is it?
Boda.
Boda.
Yeah.
I'm walking down the street, and one of the guys say, I was talking to the old man. I went to get something to eat after the old man grabbed me and hugged me and told me to come back. I went to get something to eat, and the guy at the restaurant said no. He was shaking his hand no. And I'm like, what's wrong? And another lady came, he said, no, you can't pay for it. He's going to give it to you. I said, why? He said, you've been blessed. Right? And I'm like, wow. And then the Boda guys, they say, hey, come in. I rode around with them, rode around the block with them.
Yeah, I love Bodas.
It was different over there. People were more open and accepting and wanting you and wanting to feed you and wanting you to be part of them. Over here, we look at each other and we look at each other side-eyed and we all too cool to say what's up. And, I'm like, I don't understand it. And it made, when I got back to the States, it made me want to go back.
Yeah.
It made me want to go back to it. It's a different thing. But then I feel the people here in America, we've got to understand something. We're worth more than what we think we are.
And that's the question. And like some people will be like, I'm not going back to Africa because my ancestors built it up here. We need to make life better as an African American here in America. Like instead of me going back to Africa.
I'm ready. I took this test called 23andMe. My mother passed away. Before my mother passed away, I said, Mom, open your mouth. And she wouldn't. I said, Mom, if you don't open your mouth, I'm going to bite you. She smiled. And I took the test. My sister sent it in. And we found family members. And I found my aunts that I haven't seen in 30 years. And now we're in contact.
Wow.
Taking that test. And in the test, 1,500 other relatives came up.
Mm-hmm. So I did Ancestry, not 23andMe. What African countries did it pin you for?
Nigeria, Ghana, Ireland.
I can see some of keep on.
And
Nigeria, Ghana, Ireland. Were those the main ones?
Yeah, those were the main ones.
What year were you born?
In the year of our Lord, 1960.
1960. Okay, so this is after Brown versus Board of Education. Did you grow up in like a segregated neighborhood?
My neighborhood was segregated.
Yeah.
I didn't go to a segregated school.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Yeah.
I had a weird family. My aunts and my uncles and my grandmother and my mother and my dad and my stepdad, they paid for me to go to school. I went to Catholic school up until like the 8th grade.
Why?
Because they wanted me to have a better education. They thought, and because I was they remember I used to stutter. I still kind of stutter now. So I was in special ed.
Okay.
right? Not like Nori. Um, and the teacher did something and she got in trouble. My teacher in first grade got in trouble because she took three students that all stuttered and gave us something called RIF, Reading is Fundamental Program.
Oh, okay.
They
I
were
thought you were talking
cards.
about drugs.
No, they were cards.
Mm,
They were reading cards, and you read these cards for comprehension, and then you had to explain what you read to the class.
okay.
So I had to stand up in front of the class after I read what I read and then explain it.
Mm,
And all three of us got put out of the special education program, and she almost got fired because the school gets money for every child in special education.
yeah.
And she took a big chunk out.
Yeah.
She was crying. There was a parent teachers meeting. She was crying because she was going to lose her job for getting us out of special ed. So you got to understand something. If I used to be a stuttered child and ride the short bus to school, right? And then the next year I'm not on that short bus. What is our education level doing wrong? Because they're keeping a lot of our brothers on the short bus.
You know, I used to teach here. Guess what schools? I taught at 2 high schools in Atlanta.
Which one?
McNair and Cedar Grove. You know, McNair is one of the lowest schools in the state of Georgia as far as performance.
Well, the thing is, you got to understand something when it comes to schools. My thing is this: before I die, I'm going to become a teacher.
Really?
Yes, before I die, I'll probably be a 90-year-old teacher.
You know, they need you now.
Huh?
They need teachers like now. Right now's the time.
I got to put my bank before I become a teacher because they ain't going to pay me. But I've been to McNair. A friend of mine, he was the ROTC officer at McNair back in the day. And
they have a great program there.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah.
And what it was he said these kids are walking down the hallway looking any way. They had to have police there one time because they were smelling marijuana in the hallway. When we grew up, that wasn't something that was going to happen. When we grew up, we had something called respect for our elders. Teachers, when we grew up, was that way to get out of the neighborhood, was that way to go to Columbia, was that way to go to Rutgers, was that way to go to SUNY school. That's what the teachers were. We looked at the teachers as our way out of the hood. We looked at the teachers as our way of growing. It was actually, I don't like to mention names, but I got to mention his name, Miss McGillen, who took us. She was absolutely Irish, red hair, the whole thing. She's the one who taught us Black history and took us up to Columbia, where our parents had to sign letters so we can go after school and go up to Columbia University and go to Black history classes.
Wow. That's admirable of her.
Well, she saw something that angered her. Looking into school, looking at our reading levels. But by the time I got out of Miss McGillen's class, I was in 5th grade. My name is Wendell. Y'all can look me up. I had a 12th grade reading level.
Wow.
I read Five Heavy Stones. I read Cars. I read stuff that, you had to get the brown paper bag to buy it.
Yeah.
I was so into reading. I had an Encyclopedia Britannica and I had the other one, the World Book. When anyone would say something, I'd go look it up, right? And come to find out that the older books had stuff in them. The new books are edited and things are taken out. And so I like to read old books. Old books got the old information, and usually those guys were stupid. They wouldn't lie.
Yeah.
That what was wrong with old knowledge. They wouldn't lie about it. They'd put it in there.
Yeah, and now censorship really is a thing.
Censorship doesn't happen to me. That's why a lot of people might get angry at me sometimes. I'm going to tell you what it is. I don't care if you don't believe it. Your feelings get hurt. When you get pain, you take an aspirin and get over it.
I feel that 100%.
We said that earlier.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. What led you into the Army? Well, the Marines.
Thank you for
Sorry.
And I love the
Semper
Army.
Fi. Semper
I
Fi.
love the Army because y'all guys, y'all take care of business. Honestly, when I tell the people and people look at me, I think it's because I knew I needed discipline. I, when you get those letters to go visit colleges and whatnot, and you go to a college and visit, and everybody's like having the kegger, having the parties, and they're smoking, and I'm like, I might get used to this, and I don't want to.
Okay.
And I want.
That's a part of what I was saying earlier, knowing yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're very self-aware.
Yeah. And when I went into the Marine Corps, I had a friend who trained me before I went, and he passed away, and I love him. His name was Stefan. He made me run around Central Park. He made me run around Morningside Park. He made me do stretches because he was into that kung fu stuff. He made me do wind sprints. He make me fight with a skinny guy who could beat my butt. It was like, hit me. And I tried to hit him, then he kicked me. And I'm like, oh, But he trained me prior to me going into the service to be ready. And when I got there, I had this, he was with me. I felt he was with me the whole time,
Yeah.
I'm running. We were running, a lot of those guys are running Olympic times.
Yeah.
3 mile run a 3 mile run in 16 minutes and 45 seconds. That's what guys, there was, they had guys running Olympic times there, and I'm like, and trying to compete, and it builds you up. I heard people, oh, they brainwash you. No, they don't. They train your body, they train your mind, so you can accomplish things. That's what college is about. When you go to college, you don't go to college to get high, get drunk, and chase girls and girls chasing guys. You're supposed to go to college, like a lot of our brothers from Africa, to learn, to build, to grow.
Yeah, I was excited to go to college because it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest.
But learning can't.
You can do both.
And learning can be fun.
Yeah.
When you go to college, you're independent. That's your first grab at independence from the home, right? And then you have that one kid that you see that's always going to class, he's taking up extra classes, because his parents got money. Or you got that kid that's working in school, and because they really want to get somewhere. But I don't want to just be where I'm at and just hang out. I want to get somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. And I was always a nerd. I always liked to read. I always liked to. I liked adventure. I'm sorry, the Argosy magazine is no longer around, or the Boy's Life magazine, where they talked about treasure hunting. They talked about mountain climbing. They talked about archaeology and astrology, and those things. I hit on every single one of those points, and it does something. It gives you a little bit of knowledge. So. And that's all we're here for. We're all here to take in knowledge.
Yeah.
To grow our minds.
When did you get out of the Army?
I'm
sorry. When did you get out of the Marines?
I was in from 1978 to 1988.
Did you do a deployment?
Yeah.
Where?
I've been to Okinawa, Japan. I've been to Korea. I've been to Alaska. I've been on the ship, the LPH Tripoli and the Tara.
Were you a part of like I heard that a lot of soldiers who went to Japan and Korea like engaged in a lot of like the like underground sex with Asians. Like, did you see that, or like, is that really a thing? But you know what I'm talking about?
I will tell you this. In countries, they've got this, every one of these countries, they have this place where people would go. In Japan, it's quite different. You're not going to be a gaijin or kokojin going to those places.
Okay. What's a kokojin?
Me.
Oh, okay. A black man.
Kokojin. No, these places are for them.
White men.
You may drive, or Japanese men. You can drive through there with a cab. I dare you not get out of the cab.
Oh.
Okay. I dare you not. You'll actually be the cab driver won't even stop.
Really?
Yes, this is for their world. That thing right there. But they have things called the the bar girls. Now, to explain to you the bar girls, it's like we used to have in the United States in the old days, right? You'd go and there'd be a girl there, and you'd pay to talk to them, or you'd pay to dance with them. They used to do that in the 50s, the
Okay.
40s, and the 50s. So that was a practice over there. I worked as a matter of fact, as when I was in the service, I had two jobs out in town. I worked at a tailor shop, so I could measure you and send your clothes off and
Hmm.
stuff like that. And I worked at a club. And
Why did you want to have all these jobs?
ADD.
You like to keep yourself busy.
Yeah, and
Okay.
my last tour I was there with my family, so I had people to feed.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I had already built up, that I every tour I had, I worked at those two places,
Okay.
and I'm just a busy person,
Yeah.
and I like to have money in my pocket.
Are you grew up, you said you were born in 1960, so this is like the beginning of the civil rights movement, essentially. Like the
Yes,
height of it. What memories do you have from the civil rights movement?
Odell. I mention his name because he was a Black Panther, and they had a Black Panthers headquarters on 112th Street and 111th Street and 8th Avenue, and they used to have the food program there. And Odell would come in there, and Odell would help everybody with their homework and teach us how to draw and teach us songs and stuff like that. And one day, somebody said someone walked in there and shot Odell. And Odell, I ran around the corner and they was taking Odell away, and he died. And it gave me a different type of awareness because remember, the Black Panthers were out there, and they would tell us that we have to always remember, no matter what's going on, we have to do more, we have to learn more, and
Mm.
we have to do better just to be equal.
Yeah.
And that's what's put upon us. No, you can. They told us this as kids, so I got this as a kid that I have to do better and I have to do more to be equal. So that is your lot. I wasn't complaining about it.
You're just like, it is what it is.
I have to do that,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and in that at that time it was different. At that time when I was growing up, I wanted to be like the older kids that was going off and going away to college. We don't have kids looking at their friends or family members going off and going away to college. We look at our family members wanting to own their own trap house. We look at our family members wanting to go out there and, just hang on the corner and walk from side to side. It's like everybody's looking to get the next high. Everybody trying to find the weed bag. Everybody who's got the blunt. It's like who's got the book. If I if I'm in a room with a bunch of young Black men and older Black men, and I ask them what's the last book they read, a lot of them are going to look at me with a blank stare. Three of them are going to look at me mad because they don't know how to read or they have never read a book. No, they look at me mad like they want to punch me in my face because I just cussed at them because I
Mm.
asked them what was the last book you read.
I've gone to I go to HBCUs a lot. I've gone to Howard. I visited like Spelman, Clark's. So there are a lot of very intelligent, very motivated Black men in this generation, I would say, and just throughout history in general. But I do think that a lot of boys get lost. So for me teaching, I could say like what hurt me so bad was like even me trying to help them and like they just don't even want the help for themselves.
Oh, hold on, listen. Their mothers are telling them, "What you doing that for? That ain't no good for you. That ain't gonna do nothing for you." They get told this at home, and they get shocked. And when you're the smart kid on the block, everybody's making fun of you.
Yeah, that's how it was at my school I was at. Like the well behaved or like, yeah, the smart guys got no girls, like, or just
I was one of the smart guys, but I can't say
you were smart, but you got the girls.
that. Yes. No, the thing is, education is not important. And when I went to Kenya, education is important. And we don't realize how good we have it here because over there you have to pay to go to school. Your parents have to pay for you to go to school. Over here it's free, and you don't know enough to go there and get the education and free yourself.
Mm.
What's free, what's put before you, right, is not what you want. Not knowing that that education is going to do something for you. I remember I was speaking to somebody, invited me to a school, and I was speaking to a bunch of the young kids. And I raised my hand. I said, how many people we got here working McDonald's? And a couple of guys stood up kind of sheepishly. I said, who here works at, because I knew one of the guys worked at the Dairy Queen. I said, who's at Dairy Queen? And he stood up and he laughed, I said, y'all come up here. And everybody said, what do y'all think about them? And they started laughing at him, fry boy or something they was calling him. So I had 5 guys up there and I gave them all $10. I said, and a couple of y'all could have lied and got one of these 10s, but y'all didn't. But y'all got to understand something. Out of these 4 or 5 guys, how are your grades? And they you see them perk up. Their grades are good, but y'all are working. How many have their grades as high as theirs? And nobody can raise their hand. And I said, what you are looking at right now are the people you need to become best friends with by the time you'll graduate, because this is going to be your boss.
Yeah, that's facts.
If you have a child who is responsible enough to go to work and keep his grades up, he most definitely is going to be your boss.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Because that kid has a goal and a purpose in life. And our kids, for whatever reason, whatever traumas, they don't have that goal, but it's partially within yourself because nobody's going to give it to you. You've got to want something. You've got to want greater. If you see somebody walking around with a pair of Jordans, right? And those Jordans cost, how much do they cost these days?
Like 400.
$400, a $400 pair of shoes. So you're going to work how many hours? You're going to work 2 weeks to get that pair of Jordans to put them on your feet. So you're going to spend $400 to put it on the ground.
Yeah.
When the person who can afford that is going to make sure they got $4,000 before they spend $400.
Yeah.
I'd wear a pair of $10 Walmart sneakers until I added $4,000 before I wear a pair of Jordans for $400. Nothing bad to Jordan. It's a company. But what I'm getting at is this. We don't know the value of ourselves.
Yeah.
When we want to give it away.
I think it's also with like wanting to prove. I think that a lot of
it is a lot of the young men out here are traumatized. I'm not talking about who's like 16, 17, 18. Let's go 35 and down. They grew up in situations that they can't talk about and they're trying to run from. They grew up in situations where they got into a fight because their best friend was dating their mother. Okay? They grew up seeing things that they should have never saw. They grew up seeing their older brother sell crack to their aunt. They grew up seeing things that were so negative, they don't think anything can be positive in their life. And my thing is this, at some point in time, and I know it happens sometimes when they wake up in the morning, I don't want to be like this anymore. But they don't know where to go or what to do to get away.
To start, like what the first step to take.
Yes. Like I said, I told you, when I was coming up, I had a different lifestyle. That I had no place to be. When I got out of school, if I wanted to go to my father's house, I just went. If I wanted to go to my grandmother's house, I just went. And one of my friends were out there talking. They said, your family don't care a damn about you. I said, why? They said, you don't report to none of them. They don't know where you are. You could have been dead for 2 weeks. Nobody knows where you are. I said, well, they know 2 things. I'm going to school and I'm going to work. And I'm coming home and paying the rent. That's all they knew. And that was put upon me when I was younger. I had a little job. And back then, rent for our apartment on 112th Street was $230 a month, right? And I remember coming home one day and handing my stepdad the rent money. He said, "What's this for?" I said, "For the rent." And he laughed and pushed me down and said, "Get out of here." I came home the next month and I handed it to him. He said, "Nah, just give me half." And he's just laughing at me. Now I'm 15 years old and I wanted to
That's
go.
young.
I was 15 years old and I wanted to go to a party with the older kids who was like 20. They had little beards. I had one too. And my mother said, "No, you can't go nowhere." And my stepdad came out of the room and he said, "That boy can go anywhere he wants to." And my mother said, "What? He not going?" And he said, "Yes, he can. You're not going to tell him what to do in this house." And I got scared because they was getting ready to get in an argument over me. And my mother, she lashed out at me. She said, "He's my son." And my stepdad said to her just like this, "He's my son because I feed him too." And he said, "That man, you can't tell that young man what to do in this house because he's been paying your rent for the past 2 months." And
Facts.
I went in the room and closed my door and I was scared to move. And my stepdad came and he said, "You better get out this house right now. Get dressed and go to the party." And I was scared, I was going against my mother. And he said, "Don't you ever let nobody hold you back or hold you down." And when my stepdad told me that, I saw that look in his eyes, I was more scared of him than my mother.
So you went out.
And my mother didn't speak to me for 2 months.
I'm trying to digest if that is a positive thing for a 15-year-old to feel like they're contributing to a household, or is that a burden?
Okay, there was y'all can look in the Navy Times about a child that committed suicide while his father was on deployment. It was a 12-year-old child. He was 12 or 13 years old. His father's pay got messed up, and he was like taking out trash for people and helping people, because he's trying to bring money in the house to help his mom, because I guess the allotment got messed up, and it didn't happen. He killed himself so his mother and sister could have enough money.